Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Thursday, October 14th, 2021. It's just after 2 p.m. We did the board picture today, but we have a wrap-up budget work session today. That doesn't mean that the budget is finalized. It just means that we're kind of doing a general consensus. The work session, we don't make motions anyway. So this will come back to the board. If something changes in the next couple months, we can absolutely change. Do you want to do a roll call, Randy?
Yeah. Trustee LaRue? Here. Trustee Winslow?
Present.
Trustee Everson?
Here.
Trustee Marks?
Present.
Clerk Rattari is here. Treasurer Johnson?
Here.
And Supervisor Durant?
Here.
And Manager Kangas is here for staff. Lenny Bodina, Superintendent of Public Works, is here. And Accountant Lois Stonehouse is here.
Okay. Public comment? You can come up to the podium. State your name and address, please.
Reggie Durant, 265 Bishop Woods Road, and I'm going to speak about 4A. And I just want to make some comments, and then I'm going to head out and go for my bike ride. The supervisor had mentioned to me that you're going to look forward to increasing funding for upset. I'm a grandparent. I have a 2-year-old and I got a precocious 8-year-old that, you know, my greatest fear is what could happen to these kids down the road if we don't control meth, and that's the biggest problem right now in Marquette County. It also was the biggest problem that I knew of when I had my business. We saw everything, had everything, and you know, the fire department can attest they've been there on occasions for overdoses or people extremely intoxicated. We didn't want those people to stay with us, but unfortunately, you can't always stop someone getting into your hotel and renting a room. But talking about the grandkids, you know, I remember back in 1972 when I was younger, 71, worked for a landscaping company down in the Detroit area. One of the guys that I worked with was using crystal meth. Now today, crystal meth is the high-test drug, dangerous drug, and then just regular bathtub meth is what people are making. The grandkids, I don't know what they're going to face. I don't know what he's going to have in a few years. I've got him in the 906AT, which is the adventure club. He's enjoying himself. He's learning, getting some grit, confidence, endurance. He's a wonderful kid, but I'm always worried what's going to happen to the grandchildren. And I love them so, and I would like to see you folks support increasing the funding for upset by, I believe, by another $5,000. They need it. Not only will they help us in Marquette County, but throughout the whole Upper Peninsula. And I have been, like I said earlier, I've been an end user of police services, so I know how important they are to have. So that's it. Thank you, board. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. Any comments in relation to the public comment? Linda?
Something.
Sure.
So I did a little research. It's not perfect. That's what I'll say. There are about 318,000 people in the UP. We have 4,000. So we have about 1.25% of the population lives in Marquette Township. Does that make sense? Anybody? Right. So at that, if everyone contributed equally throughout the Upper Peninsula, if their upsets budget is $181,000 or $186,000, and we all contributed equally, we would contribute $2,262.50. So I just want people to be aware, because that contribution, if we raise that contribution to $10,000, is a huge percentage of our population contributing to upset. So I agree with our commenter. It's scary out there, but it's been scary out there since 1971. And I just think that as a taxpayer, we should attempt to all contribute equally to fund them. The other question I have about that is, are we allowed to give donations to, as a township, to organizations?
It's not
Yes.
considered a donation either.
So it's a fee?
Roger, I don't remember what term he used last time. We did ask.
Right, right. I remember asking about something else.
Yeah.
So it's a fee?
It's, yes, there's something different because we do contribute to the fireworks too.
Right.
So it is a little different.
Yeah, just so people know. And those were the numbers probably from 2010 census. I don't think our numbers have changed in the UP.
The basic test, Linda, for expenditures is, can the township residents benefit from the expenditure? And I would say yes on that one.
So do they benefit? The question is, do they benefit that much more than everyone else in the
Well,
UP?
it's not a question whether they benefit more, it's just whether or not there's a benefit
Okay.
for
Well,
residents.
So my comment is just what I said. The population, the amount of money, and the percentage if it's done somewhat equally throughout the Upper Peninsula.
Well, I guess I could get figures from Tim saying what percentage of the problem are we in the UP. He could probably tell us.
Correct.
It's probably more than 1 or 2%.
In Marquette Township?
Yeah.
In the county, you mean? Or
Well,
In the
no, I'm saying
county.
in the township when I talked to him before.
Well,
he
those
said-
would be good numbers to
Yeah.
have because, again, when you go out to your constituents, you need to be able to explain a $10,000 jump kind of donation here.
Well, it's a $5,000 job.
Yeah, but it was 1,000 2 years ago, right?
No, the last budget,
That's 2 years.
yeah. It's
2
been
years
2
ago it was 1,000,
Yeah.
so that's a huge jump. Do we have that big of a jump in meth cases or drugs? Just
I'll find
something to
out.
consider.
I'll find out.
Because I'm opposed to not being able to explain it clearly
Okay.
to people.
Who was first?
John?
John.
John? Okay.
I appreciate the information we've received. I think it's good to have that in hand while we look into whether we think that it's in our interest to increase our donation. But donations and contributions are widely spaced when you think about some other areas that we are pressed with financially. For years, I've argued that the amount of tax that goes to the library, the public library that we come and welcome here, is vastly different. Give you an example. In Chalk Lake, they have twice as many people there and twice as many people using the library than we have here. And yet they pay half in taxes that we do for the library. So you'll find this in many areas, and it's a matter of whether the people want to live with that or they don't want to live with it. But the point is, it isn't just upset. It's all kinds of issues that we are faced with as a township board, and I appreciate everything you've said, and I think that's good for us to know. But we need to know that there's a difference in how that is looked at by the community. Our community is willing to, and our board is willing, each time the library asks us to put it on the ballot, knowing that we're going to be paying at least twice as much as they do in Chalk Clay in that tax, and willingly do it. Mm-hmm. So each time it's a matter of deep consideration by those responsible to whether that goes on. And I think the arguments by Upset are well-founded. I think the danger is, as we heard today, is there. I don't know whether they can stop it, but they sure are making a dent in it that other communities may not feel compelled to pay their share, as you would view it. So I just want you to know that there are a number of other things that are done in this community that are not as widely distorted as what we would be doing if we gave Upset an increase. We will go on with the library issue, and I'll go on voting no each time so that it doesn't go on the ballot, but I may be the only one on the board.
No,
And that's, W2, pardon me. It's just one of those things that people have to make a choice on and make a decision on.
But in defense of that, they are making the decision, the taxpayers. The taxpayers are not making the decision on the Upset donation. Now, we can all ask our neighborhood and see what they think about this. And I may be surprised, you may be surprised, but the taxpayers are not making the decision except through voting for the board members.
That's right.
Correct.
And again, it's up to the board on the library as well. Because it wouldn't be on the ballot.
Correct.
If we didn't vote to put it there.
Okay, Ernie?
A couple things. Going back to Upset. You go back in time, I was the one that came to the board originally because we were donating nothing to Upset. Because I saw what was happening in the township, and I suggested at that time $1,000, and the board accepted that. And we did that for a number of years. And I think it was 2 years ago, it was increased to $5,000. And now this year they're going for $10,000. We are. If you listen to the gentleman that was here and that, they're talking about the big boxes, the parking lots, US 41, what's happening in those areas and that. We happen to be unique in the area because we have the big boxes, we have the parking lots, and we have US 41 going through and that. So it creates a situation within our township, and granted you might say it doesn't directly relate to our residents, but indirectly it does because they're bringing it into the township. And not directly to the residents, but it's in the township and that. So that's what we have to be concerned with. And listening further to him, he's talking about dollars that they have, which is about $180-some thousand, which is their budget. That's their hard cash budget and that. When you look at all the other items involved, what's been donated, when you start looking at these entities that are allowing one of their staff members become part of their team, you're not talking $10,000 there. You're talking $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 a year that community is committed to Upset in that, depending on the size of the community in that. So that they are committing not hard cash, but they're committing assets to it. It's the same way with equipment. The equipment with the state police, when you look, what they're donating for that. He was a state trooper, he's getting paid by the state and that to do this. You could say that's probably their job, yes and no. But you look at what's happening in that. An organization I belong to up in Ishmael, they went ahead and took some of their dollars and bought one of the night cameras for the police department up there in Ishmael because of the problems they were having. Not only in the city with the police, but with Upset too. So what was going on. So I'm kind of aware as to what's happening in that. And he brought home things I never thought about on the big boxes and the things that were happening in the parking lots. When you stop and think about that, yes, It makes it easy for drug dealers to make the deals and everything else within these areas and that. All you have to do is read the newspapers as to what's happening where and that, what's happening overall. So I have no problem going with $10,000. I have no problem with any resident comes up and talk to me. I will be more than happy to talk with them and tell them why I'm moving in that direction, because I think it's beneficial to the township and to the residents in the township for going this way and that. That's all I had to say.
Okay, Ernie, or I'm sorry, Pete?
I wish the kids would get hooked on the library, the med. When we're talking about the parking lots, you know, they go from the parking lots into our residence. They go home and you got your neighbors and stuff like that. We just got rid of one in our neighborhood, and he causes a problem all the time, and there's lots more. But you don't want. I should say I rented to what the hell? To the drug force.
Upset.
And I didn't rent it. I didn't got no money for it, but they rented it for several months just to get people. And they drill holes through the bathroom into the cupboards and stuff like that, and just to show the table. And it's amazing who all comes down that alley, went upstairs and talked and stuff like that. I didn't see the pictures, but I seen the cars. And there are lots of them. Marquette, we don't want it in Marquette Township. Our neighboring cities have problems with it, very much problems, so we don't want to go there. If we can stop it, we have to do anything we can to stop it. If your kid was there and he's on it, you do anything, you'd pay more than $10,000. You know, I seen what it did within our family. What the hell happens to people who go on drugs? It's not fun. It's not nice to watch. Thank God they took care of themselves. So. But I think it's worthwhile, and it's all we can do is just hopefully that the kids wise up and find out a better way of doing recreation except for drugs. And it's hard out there because look at it, you know, you got what, 4, 5 places they can pick up marijuana. You got 4 in Marquette, 1 in our township, and I don't like that, but I you know, can't stop it as long as they do what they're supposed to be doing. So. I think it's worth it. You know, I think it's protecting the residents. Because once you get a bunch of people who are on drugs, you can just see slowly the house upkeep goes down and all these other things. And we're sort of take pride in our residents, you know, in our neighborhoods and stuff like that. So I'm for it. So.
Okay, thanks. Dan?
I think our taxpayers put us here to make these kinds of decisions. And when this comes to a vote, I definitely will vote for it. I've seen for years firsthand what it does to people. We've been on many calls where people are overdosed. And if they can save one person, to me that's worth $10,000. And when this does come to a vote, I will definitely be in favor of giving the $10,000. That's it.
Okay. Ernie, sorry. Ernie, you were...
Okay, I forgot one thing. When you talk about drugs, this is a number of years ago. I can't tell you, 4 or 5 years ago. I was in the living room with my wife, couldn't sleep in the bed, and we were in the living room. She was sleeping in the chair and I was up there. And the doorbell rang. It was 1:30 in the morning. So what do you do at 1:30 in the morning? So you get up and open the door, and here's a young fella at the door. The screen was locked, and he says, "Call 911. I think I overdosed." You're standing there. What do? I happened to have a phone in my hand. I took that. Why I took it with me, I don't know. So I called 911 at that point in time. And it was an interesting conversation in that. They asked me, well, what's he look like? And I said, I don't know. All I know is that's what he told me to do. And then we were talking further, and she said, the individual on 911 said, why don't you go out and talk to him? I said, I'm not going out there and talk to him and that for any reason in that. And then he said, I don't know, I think I'm gonna pass out. And I looked at him, and I had already made sure that the 911 had called somebody, and he keeled over on my porch. And pretty soon the police came. And then Marquette Township EMS came. And then the ambulance came from the city and that. And I'll be honest with you, they did not treat him very gentle, trying to do it, because one of them says, I don't know if he's breathing or not. And they were pounding on his chest on the deck and that. And they got him down there into the ambulance. And they were in the ambulance for, I get a good half hour before they left doing something down there. And I was talking to our EMS people a few days later about that. And the comment they said, he's either going to change or he's going to die. There's no question about that, one way or another. And that's the only direct input I've had with them, and I don't want to go through that again. I just saw what happened in that too. And one comment they said, how would you like to got up in the morning and walk down your front steps and found him on the front steps frozen and that? What would you have done? Because this was the later part of November, first part of December and that.
He's lucky that you answered the door with the phone and not something else.
Yeah.
It would have been a different situation at my house. I would have had the phone in one hand and something else in the other.
Yeah, but you gotta drag them inside of your house.
And that's right.
John, follow up?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Linda only brought this information to our body so that we'd have it in our quiver as we considered this. She wasn't saying anything detrimental to awarding it, other than we had to be aware, as she carefully presented it, that it was going to cost more money. That's all.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. That was a long intro. Policy discussion today, follow-up, as I said. We're going to go through some of the Public Works. We can hit Public Works first and dismiss them if you want, or plenty, and go through each one of the tabs, or if somebody's got questions. I have a couple more things that I circled.
Why don't we let Denny make a presentation? So
Yeah, that'll probably take the longest anyway, just because there's a lot of information.
You just want to start with the solid waste? You want anything with water and sewer?
Yeah, let's start with solid waste since you've got the handouts here.
So I prepared, I know after the last meeting we had, of course we know that we have some issues in our solid waste, and we've kind of identified what's the driving factor on our increases. One big one is the first Wednesday of the month, rubbish drop off. And another one was the approved North Country disposal for the extra hours that they needed for the recycling bins that we now have. So one of the first things that I did tackle was the first Wednesday solid waste. And what I did is I made 3 scenarios. The first scenario that I do have on there would be no change to anything. So we just kind of do business as usual, do our first Wednesday just like we're doing right now with no changes. And recycling is going to be every week. So with that 5 extra hours per week added in. And if we did do that, I did calculate that the new rate would be $19.40 per month. So that's if we made no changes whatsoever. So I believe on the upper right-hand corner, I think I have on there no change, I think, on that one. So that would be that one. The next one I did come up with would be just a change to the first Wednesday of the month. So just kind of some strategies to try to get that utilization rate down. When I calculated it out so far for 2021, I had to kind of put some estimates in for November and December, but if those estimates hold true, that means that we went through 91 roll-offs for 2021. And that's going to be, those are $350 a roll-off, so that rate there is going to cost us around $31,850 if we kept this same pace. So that's kind of a lot, and that's a lot of roll-offs to be going through. So I did come up with kind of a strategy. I know the board had talked about a little bit, through some ideas out. One would be actually end the collection from November to March. So we would cut those months out of the equation. In addition to that, I would propose that we limit the roll-offs to 6 per month. So even during those months that we're open, we're gonna limit the roll-offs to 6. So once those 6 are full, we're done. That would bring us down to like 42 roll-offs per year. So we would go from roughly 91 down to 42. At $350 per roll-off, that would bring us down to $14,700. So we really would significantly cut that cost down. In addition to that, we would also propose to limit the drop-offs at 3 drop-offs per address per calendar year. So we got all these kind of 3 things working in tandem. Depending, we want to try it, if these 6 roll-offs are filling up right away, because we have so much usage, we might have to go down to 2 drop-offs per address per calendar year to try to keep that. We might have to kind of adjust that back and forth. So underneath that scenario where we only did some adjusting on the first Wednesday, that rate would come down to $18.25 a month.
It's $1 less than the no change.
Right. The third scenario that we have would be to limit the first Wednesday drop-off of the month, like I just explained. In addition, ask North Country Disposal possibly to go to recycling every other week. So I know that it was brought up at this last meeting that a lot of times these recycle bins are put out only like a quarter full. So maybe it would make sense maybe go to every other week to allow them to fill up a little bit more. Now underneath this scenario, I basically just kind of like took everything in half, but that might not be a real world example because it might take 5 hours extra a week underneath like a quarter full, but what happens if people really start filling up their recycle bins? Is it going to take longer that next week? So you got to pick up and then you got to have an off week, and then the next week, is it going to take them 7 hours to do it? So we would kind of have to really kind of wait and see, exactly what those costs would be, or the time would be. But if we just kind of went and I just kind of took everything in half basically because we're doing it every other week, if we just kind of stuck true with the numbers that we have, that would bring that rate down to $17.20 a month. But understanding that those numbers might be a little bit more fluid just because we don't know how long it would take them on the week from the off week, how long it would impact a collection or not.
So what is it currently?
Currently it's $16.25. So no matter what, we do have increases. We're going to have increases in tipping fees. We did have North Country, we're going to have a COLA increase in there, and we also have the increase that was approved for the recycling costs.
So Lenny, I did talk to some residents about this and explained our issues with what was going on with the abuse of the first Wednesday. And I mentioned about having 3 truckloads per year per household or whatever. Mm-hmm. And no one really had a problem with that because they don't use that much anyway. And I think the guy said, well, I usually do 2 a year or something. And I said, and if you bring a few items, I'm sure it's not going to be a truckload. You know what I mean? We're just trying to control our... And then I told them about recycling every other week, and they said that wouldn't be a problem either, because again, most people are only half full or a quarter full. So I think those changes, at least we could try them for a year. And I mean, if it's really going terrible, I guess we could always adjust it. But I think if we try to educate the public, starting in December 1, because November, so in December 1, the drop-off will be closed. For the, till wherever, May or whatever, April. And then we'll recycle every other week starting January 1. I think that gives us enough time to educate the public. And then if folks do stick their, recycle bin out on the off week, maybe we could give North Country a sticker or something they could put on the thing and say, next week, it's next week. That wouldn't take them long to do. And then that would stop a lot of calls coming into Brenda. And they didn't pick my recycling up. And all you gotta do is give them a label sheet of stickers, and if it's in the wrong week.
I mean, one issue we also do have right now too is we did approve that, or the board did approve that increase for recycling for North Country Disposal. So we still have a couple months left in 2021.
Well,
so that's where we would have to kind of figure out what exactly when we're gonna.
But if we implement these changes, I think we can control our cost more moving forward.
You're talking about picking up the money though, right?
Right, yeah, so we still have a couple months left in 2021 here, so then now do we, I know Manager Kangas kind of suggested maybe we could do it, like, what was it, like $1 or something to cover this?
So, just looking at all of the recommendations or the options that you're presenting, my opinion is if we can cut that fee increase in half from the original $2 increase that was approved down to $1, that extra 5 cents from the numbers that Lenny calculated will offset the uncertainty that he talked about, as well as some of the overaging costs that we have to incur this year starting in October. I think that's probably about the best compromise we can offer our customers and not put our solid waste fund in significant jeopardy. We do have a fund balance. We don't like to dip into it any more than necessary, of course. But if we can tell our ratepayers we're going to have a $1 a month per customer increase on January 1, that gives us time to let them know, first of all. And it gives them time to budget for that extra $12 a year, right? Especially the people that are already living on tight incomes. So that would be my recommendation.
Do we know who's abusing this?
Mm-hmm.
We do have, we don't want to actually point fingers at people, but I mean, we do have an idea of certain people who use it a lot more heavily than others do in certain areas of the township.
And types of material they bring in.
Right. And even at that, I mean, we do know that, but then it's kind of hard because maybe somebody's redoing their bathroom or something too. But we do have an idea of heavy users.
But the thing is by putting these controls in,
Right.
well, I mean, you'll cut it down anyway.
And it would make it pretty much fair to everybody.
So what's the fund balance today? Or yesterday or when? I can't, I'm having time reading this stuff.
Okay, actually, as of September, 337,291.
337,291, and that continues to increase each year?
Yes.
So we're adding money to that fund annually? At the end
Until
of the year.
recently, yes.
Okay, all right.
That's what these cost control measures are.
I'm at a
Correct.
meeting.
Is to ensure that we can maintain a fund balance.
All right.
Well, plus, like they pointed out, we started this in May or June. I think it was probably full force in June.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this since then without any extra money. And that's nice of them to do that they can figure out how much more anyway,
Right.
you know, so they can.
So
With their
I do
stats.
have a meeting scheduled I have to schedule for next week. I'm going to sit down and talk with North Country Disposal to I'm going to run these scenarios past them and see what they think about it. But I think for the most part, I think this would work to knock that usage down.
So you're recommending the second budget, and I think that's 3 different things. I wrote down the 6 roll-offs a month.
I'm recommending would be the change to the recycling to every other week, and the changes to the first Wednesday. So that would be the one that's, I think it's $17.20 per month.
Okay.
But if we go to $17.25, that extra 5 cents would help offset some costs this year.
Yeah.
Add to the fund balance.
And help the fund balance. And another thing, Lenny, too, is that fund balance. And I know we got to find out where that magical number is eventually.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's other townships I know that don't have much, put away for it. We have a lot, which is good. But once we reach that limit, we won't have to, we can put that money back to the rates, and that would help keep that cost down.
Is there no guidance from the state that says each municipality needs to contribute 0.5%, or
I haven't looked at anything. I haven't seen anything, but I can definitely do some research on it and see if it's out there.
Or Brad may know.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
they stopped funding their fund too.
Well, they didn't stop it, they just moved the money someplace else.
Right.
They
put it into capital. Everything goes into capital.
Yeah, Brad did say last night, I think this is what he said, that landfill is good for 50 to 60 years.
They've been saying that since I got on the board.
So they keep increasing the length.
Which is good.
Yeah.
That
so-
means they're managing what goes in there better.
Well, and we're doing recycling, which, okay, so.
Should make it
yeah.
70 years then.
Well, maybe it will.
Yeah. But I will definitely do some research and see if there's
Okay.
a.
Yeah,
number
because
that
if,
they throw
like-
out there for that.
You know, 300,000 is a magical number, we're above that.
Right.
And we can stop funding that part of our asset, and then that would help with rates.
Yeah, it could be based maybe on, they must have a goal or some kind of an idea on per capita or something. You know,
Or, well-
some kind of guideline.
All 19 townships are owners, plus the cities, right? So maybe
Yeah.
just take a percentage of each group or something, I don't know.
By population?
Or, yeah, I don't know. what
Yeah, there's gotta be some kind of guideline, I would hope.
Yeah, there has to be something, but I'll see if I can find something on that and I'll come
'Cause-
back with that information.
Solid Waste has, or the authority has stopped, you know, so they reached a number that they either felt was right or had some kind of guidance
Right.
from Eagle or somewhere.
Well, and they should give that to municipalities for also,
Yeah, like
because we
Ernie
should
said.
know, because if they're saying each group's on the hook for 100,000, then they can budget that down the road,
Right.
you know?
And maybe it means just forcing their hand too, maybe nobody's asked the question, how much should we be having?
Well, it's like we have
Okay.
guidance in water, general fund, and wastewater, like we have to have 4 months of operating or 3 months of operating.
Yeah.
And that's the minimum we should have in that account. But solid waste, there was never any guidance given ever to that account.
Okay, that'll be good if we can get that. Ernie?
I have a, just an understanding now. What is it that we're planning to do? I want to make sure I fully understand it. We've talked about a lot of scenarios here. I want to make sure we got
Go through it
where
once
we're
more.
at,
Okay.
what we're doing.
We're proposing to eliminate the collection from November to March.
How about March? I would say through, till May 1st.
No, remember the university students are leaving and you don't want them dumping their stuff somewhere else. So,
But they don't leave until April.
right, so we want to run it
Yeah, I
in
mean,
April.
we could go up to
See
April.
what you're doing, that's about
But
Um,
who's that?
It would just, but it would increase the cost a little bit because we're gonna have probably extra dumpsters at that point.
No, I'm saying no, don't do it from November through April. Don't do it at all. And that.
Yeah, we could try doing that.
Would that be reducing more months that people can bring their stuff?
That would reduce it by 1 month then.
Oh, well,
So,
so you don't want them to be able to drop stuff in April?
Well, April could be, you know, the snow could be gone. It
Yeah,
could
I
be
like,
starting to
I
clean
think
up and
April's
stuff.
time for cleanup.
And the kids will be, they
Getting
don't
rid
leave
of
until the
stuff.
first week of May, so they might be doing it in April. Or the
Stuff.
landlords.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem, keep it in April, I would think.
Yeah.
No,
just-
you were
just
saying
roll
March,
it.
didn't you say March
Sure,
initially?
so November through March and then it would open on April.
Yeah,
First
I
Monday
think
of
we need
April.
April.
I don't agree with that.
So if we went from November to March, then we would also limit the roll-offs to 6 per month that were open. That would be 42 per year at $350, which would be $14,700. We would limit the drop-offs at 3 per address per calendar year. So after the
Truckloads,
third time,
yeah, 3
truckloads,
truckloads.
they're done, they can't come back.
Are we talking, when you talk about truckload, are we going to go with how much in the truckload, size of it? And
I think what they're usually doing right now is a pickup truckload or maybe even like just a trailer. So if you just, even they had one, I believe, with the truck and a trailer, I think they only let them dump one. So we're trying to just, basically just like a back of a pickup truck.
Yeah, pickup truck load.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do with the trailer load?
No, I think they can get rid of it, but they have to pay for it if they brought it up to, there's other I think they can actually go to other transfer stations, but then you have to pay for it.
I just don't wanna say that, okay, I can't do it, well, I'll get rid of it,
Right.
you know?
Well, hopefully the education gets out there, that's where we're gonna really try to, if we do this, it'll be plastered all over the place and, limit to 1 truckload. So we'll really try with the education, let them know this is how many times a year you can come and this is how much you can bring. And hopefully the education will work on it. We don't.
Well, most residents shouldn't have a problem with it, just the abusers will be not happy, that's basically it.
We might want to think about another mailing in, like mid-month or something for the
Yep.
next couple months to, like you said, blast them.
Yep.
not
Yeah.
just wait for a month then.
We'll do Facebook, we'll do mailing on the back of the calendars, bills, we'll do everything. We'll do it for a few months or just so people understand this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And a printable calendar on the website for when things are happening, like a calendar
Yeah,
that
we were talking
says,
about that.
Yeah.
this is this, this is.
Yep, definitely, yeah, we can do that.
Well, Lenny, I'm gonna be hauling the second load from Dan's there, that's from Dan's house.
We better be with you.
Yeah.
We better be with you.
Or, I mean, if the same person shows up and, I mean, obviously, look, I'm helping clean out my mother-in-law's house or something like that. I mean, that's why we're trying to limit to an address versus the person. So hopefully that'll work. And we're always gonna probably have some hiccups or somebody trying to say, doing things. But
Well, I've been there, done that, stuff like that.
So-
Take someone else's stuff.
But if you have 1 or 2 a year hiccups,
yeah,
that's a lot better than what we've got.
right, yeah.
And then not just go right to North Country Disposal in the back and pay and put it in there also?
Yes.
I believe they can, yes.
I've done it, so I mean, that's another option.
Yep, yep.
John?
This is a service we're providing as part of their monthly garbage fee as a residential customer. If they go beyond what we can afford to provide them, it's at their own cost. Whether they leave it at North Country and pay them, bring it to the waste management transfer station in town, or directly out to the landfill, which is probably actually the cheapest per ton, but the furthest to drive, right? So you have to decide, do you want to pay the convenience fee or drive it out there? One of the things I was thinking we might want to consider doing, since we're talking about buying stickers to put on recycling carts when people put it out on the wrong one, and we're also talking about making a calendar. Maybe that calendar should be the sticker that goes right on the cover. These are the weeks that you put it out.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good.
That was really good.
I think
now
we could do that
Now we're
every year.
asking these guys to do something over and above what they normally would do, and what kind of effect will that have?
No, we give it to the people, don't we?
Yeah, put it
Don't
in
we
there.
send it to them?
We would mail it for them to stick it right on their car.
So you would have to do it.
Yeah.
We could do it
Yeah.
ourselves.
I like that idea.
And then really quickly, Treasurer Johnson, the second part of that would be, for the 1720 would be the recycling every other week too. So that kind of goes into what the calendars we were just talking about. So first Wednesday control and recycling every other week. So that would be the two things that we could try to do.
Have you talked to North Country on that recycling every other week, what they thought of that?
Actually, I'm going to be talking to Don next week about that. And it's, I sent an email out and I did receive one back, and they sound like they're okay to talk about it here. So it's not something that they're like, no, we don't want to do it.
They use the same truck, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue with different equipment.
The only issue might be if the recycling part of the truck fills up quicker and it's more trips.
Okay.
So that's what we need to really iron out with them. And I'm hoping with all these changes we're making, keep in mind there are tipping fees that apply to each one of these roll-offs also that we're paying. That's not necessarily reflected in this budget, correct? Because we don't have those broken out in the numbers we have.
Right.
We just have tipping fees for our total tonnage. So hopefully that will reflect a savings that will allow us to adjust again next year as we get a better handle of the new way forward. We'd hate to get too fine of a number here and completely blow it.
And you're probably going to want to do a whole year so that you can get through some winters on both sides. Because I was thinking, what if we just try it for 6 months? But I don't think that would be enough. I think you need a year, and they need a year to figure out what we have to get, how to hone it down.
What do the residents pay who leave for the winter? What is that fee?
We do have, I think, what was it?
$84.
Yeah, is there?
84.
I'm sorry, no, it's 7 times 6, $42.
$42
Yeah,
if you're gone away?
yeah.
For 6 months.
Oh, for 6 months, okay.
Or, I'm sorry, maybe it's the 16.25 times 6.
I think there's a reduced garbage rate and
Yeah.
then there's a part-time rate, I believe.
Yeah, so it's the
Oh,
reduced to
okay.
7 if
Yeah.
you're
All
away
right.
permanently, then.
So we need to adjust those
Yeah.
up then.
So with the ones that are part-time ones, that's still whatever the regular wage is, or not the wage, the rate times 6 months, and then there's a reduced garbage rate, and I think that's the one that's $7.
Okay, so that'll go up.
That one I did not factor to go in, but
Okay.
but I don't think there's that many of those ones, but the ones that are for 6 months, that one is, that goes up as well.
It would be the same monthly
Yeah.
rate, just for less months.
Yeah.
Okay,
6
all
months.
right.
I would
As a
just like,
full year.
Just so we know that, because that's who lives around me.
so I would like to see the rate go to 17.25, so that'd be $1 increase for next year, and then at this time next year, we can see where we're at. And what the prognosis is, as Lynn would say. So we do need a year of this to see where, and I don't think we're stretching our budget that much if it's a little bit above, so. Because we are not increasing water or sewer where other places are 12 to 9%. So we are saving them money in other areas. So,
Okay,
and we can at least I can justify this to the resident and say, hey, we have some issues that we're trying to address here and we're trying to save you some money.
Yeah, I can too, thanks Lenny.
Yeah.
Great information, great handout.
Thank you. So we're looking at the 17.25 with the cost savings measures in place.
Correct.
Based on that, we'll get working on the next month's back of the calendar, informing people of the changes coming up effective January 1. We'll work on getting some stickers made. We'll work with North Country on when they're going to start the alternating schedule so that the stickers match what they intend to do, and make sure they're in the mail well before the end of the year so people can get them on their carts. And we can make a printable PDF that we put on the website that anyone can save to their computer desktop or print for their refrigerator, whatever they want to do. We could have a stack of them here at Township Hall for people coming in too, so there's no confusion. That being said, you may recall I had mentioned previously that Marquette City has been trying to do first week glass recycling.
Yep.
They haven't recycled a load of glass yet because it's been contaminated every time. So teaching and training people new habits can be a challenge. It's going to be a significant education effort, and hopefully people will be paying attention.
And then also too, John, if we can make little informational stickers to give to North Country, so if someone's got their bin out on the wrong week, they just stick a sticker on it. And then when the resident comes out in the morning, say, oh, it's the wrong week, instead of calling here and
Sorry,
Yep.
next week
Yeah.
for recycling.
yeah, hollering
That's all
at
it needs to say.
hollering at Brenda for they didn't pick my recycling up, and then the sticker would solve a lot of those problems.
and we still need to inform them about not just putting it out half empty.
Yeah, it should be.
That's part of the education.
Well, I know if it's 2 weeks, mine would be full or fuller than it is now. So
What about the contamination of the glass, John? Where is the contamination coming from? What needs to?
They're doing curbside glass collection as a single source. And people are putting out their fiber and everything else
With the
that
glass.
week. And it goes in the load, and now the load is contaminated, so they pretty much have to waste it.
I agree. You almost have to have a single glass drop-off
Well-
site, which is what we have.
now,
Correct.
yeah.
So, okay.
Okay, what else? That was pretty thorough.
Listening to what you say, and going back to I think I mentioned before, my son down in town of Menasha and my daughter's in Glendale Heights in Chicago. It's every other week. 1 week is their garbage and the other week is recyclables. There's no question about that. That's just the way it is in that. And they said if it's wrong, they just bypass it. And they do nothing about it. They don't tell them anything else. It's just there. But the
So they
people,
have 2 weeks of trash?
yes, 2 weeks of trash.
That
I
might
could
be
do
hard.
it. I could do
Some
that. Most
I don't know,
some
but
people could do
families
2
probably
weeks.
couldn't do that.
Well,
How they
I don't
do
know.
it, I have no idea, but that's
They
what
have
they're
big
doing.
containers, I guess.
Well, they got the great big containers,
they have big
big
cartons.
ones, and
Yeah,
that too,
okay.
so.
That's it.
And so, they do it every other week, that's it.
If you really want to force people to focus on recycling,
That's what you do.
correct. That's how you get the compostable materials out of the trash, because those are some of the heaviest items that actually go in the trash. Think of the amount of wet coffee grounds and filters that go in the trash every morning. That can go in your garden if you have one. The worms love it, right, Lenny?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's
That's where mine go.
That's where mine goes.
The best thing is don't drink the coffee, you don't have the grounds.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
All right. What else do you have, Lenny? Do you want to jump to water then, or
Yeah, we can go
do you
there.
think? Do you have something new, or?
The water was basically the same as what was presented at the last meeting.
There'd
The
be no,
only thing that really remains is nailing down the CIP, which we have a recommendation from the planning commission as of last night. Lenny and I need to sit down and take a look at what that recommendation does to his replacement and improvement budgets for next year, and whether or not he has to change some of his priorities for a year of planned expenditure. I think fire is pretty much set, and anything else general fund related, we had a place marker in the budget. We'll just have to figure out if it's close or not, based on the budget numbers in the CIP. So the recommendation from Planning Commission is as submitted. So we just have to make sure that the proper years are suggested when it comes to the board.
So do you want to do that, and then, because I was kind of hoping we could talk about the CIP now, but it doesn't sound like it's ready for us to discuss. We may.
That was just decided as of last night, and of course, the whole CIP process got started late this year, as you might recall, and I'll take as much heat on that as anyone should. Next year, the process, they've already committed to starting sooner, which means I have to request or demand from the department heads their requests sooner. It's going to have to happen right away late in the first quarter of the year, so that we can have them all compiled and to the planning commission by May.
when I think too, Lynn, some of that CIP, I know at least phase 2 would be strategic planning talk too.
Yeah, that's already on that list.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, this is stuff he needs to buy,
Yeah.
basically.
I think the other thing is, do we have a firm figure on the hospitalization yet?
No, it's been delayed a little bit, but we should have it by the end of the month.
That's some kind of a computer goof up.
Okay, whatever it is, we're kind of hanging right now because we're not quite sure.
Yeah, but hospitalization, I think, is going to be less significant to the budget than contract negotiations, depending on how that goes. Because we know it's not going to be exactly the same as this budget year, right?
Right.
So we need to get the contracts finalized too.
We will have that closed session at the next meeting.
Correct.
We have presentation from both of them, a proposal from both of them to bring to you.
Counter offers, as well as hopefully some additional analysis on whether or not we're okay with what they've offered or what we think we should consider going back to them with.
Okay, so we'll hold off on CIP. Remember, when we approve the budget, we're approving the CIP. So if we don't have the conversation, this is where we got mixed up a few years ago. If we don't have the conversation and look at the CIP, we're not doing anybody any justice. We need to look at it, say yes or no or why or how come, and have the discussion before we approve the final budget. Because it's all inclusive when we finally say, yes, this is it.
So Lynn, can we have a meeting after, an hour meeting, and talk about the CIPs?
That's what I'm thinking,
Because I don't know that
a work session.
everyone's seen the CIPs yet.
They
Have
have
you?
them, but we haven't talked about them.
Okay, and then
We
I
should
can
have
add the comments from the planning commission about what they felt about each
Thank you.
item. Yeah, it was, they want the CIP stuff in May,
So we will add to the agenda, now Randy just went out, to schedule a work session for CIP discussion.
Maybe that first part of November, after the strategic plan.
Or the end of October, maybe.
Well, the strategic planning session, do we have to wait for that before
Well,
we talk about CIP, or do you want to talk about CIP before?
Not necessarily, because you may have an answer from North Country, you might have some more information from them, or Brad, or the state, or whoever. So we can still schedule. You may know, will you know by Tuesday? If
I'll have to look at, she gave me 3 dates available to talk here,
Okay.
so, I think it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or something like that. So,
Okay.
I can see if I can do it on Tuesday and maybe have the information by Tuesday late afternoon.
We just need to know when to schedule the work session for, so
Okay.
if you can tell us Tuesday. If not, we can just,
I'll see what I can schedule with her, with the meeting, and then I can let the board know.
okay.
Can you also, Lynn, have someone look at what has already been approved for the CIP projects last year that was not spent? Or is there some kind of deal where people gave $40,000 for a 5-year project and we have $200,000 and we don't, that's not a CIP request?
It is, because they're amortized, if you remember in your forms. Whoever used them didn't use them all through the amortization, but that's the idea.
Yeah, so we need to know how much. I mean, Lenny asked for money, the whole amount, but maybe some of that money has already been put aside in here.
This is
So that's
the
what-
circle of having the same discussion, is how much has already been saved for the items that you have on the CIP that were previous. This is what we argued with Kirk and tried to get Lois and figure out, and that's where we discovered that those spreadsheets, when we talked about this, were depreciation, not, they were more of an amortization. They didn't say we have, again, 100,000 saved for the ATC or something. So this is that same discussion again. How do we know how much, and do we need to know that? Do we need that checkbook? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but that's what the board's been asking for a good 10 or 15 years.
Because maybe you only need 20,000 more to buy whatever.
If it's a project that we've been putting money aside for and it's still happening, that money's not available for new projects. So that's what we need to provide you.
Yeah, for all of them.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So Randy, we're going to add to the next agenda to schedule a work session to discuss the CIP.
Okay.
And we'll check on dates Tuesday then. I put it on my notes. All right.
That's good, because I haven't finalized that agenda yet.
Right. So we've got roughly an hour. Let's just kind of quickly go through the tabs. And if you happen to have written something down, we can just make sure nothing gets missed.
For the water or wastewater?
Well, just go through the tabs.
General.
Miscellaneous in the front, it's actually a wastewater question I had for Lenny. If you look at page 2 and do you have your whole budget with you, or?
I just got the narratives of the budget here.
Okay, well in the narrative, do you have that?
Yep.
Okay, the second page talks about wastewater fund.
Okay.
Okay. It says, let's see, third or fourth sentence, only minor adjustments are proposed in the budget which primarily accommodate changes in historical spending. New expenses for the WWTP upgrade will need to be accounted for next year, but should not impact this budget. So, do we have any money set aside for that now, or can we? Do we have funds that we could start splitting that, or is that a mistake?
So this is for the wastewater treatment plant?
Yes.
I can probably answer that one pretty quickly.
Okay.
We're already making debt payments on a wastewater treatment plant. It's going to go up by an additional $20,000 starting 2023.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Should we start funding that now?
Could we start doing that? Sure, but we're talking a 20 to 40 year payback here. I don't know what the actual terms are of the bonds that they're acquiring for this, but you would get ahead by 1 year.
It's not worth it.
That's not
Yeah.
And there's 20,000 available in the fund balance to cover that first year as easily as you would budget it. We could put it in there. It's just gonna make the net effect that much tighter.
Well, but if
And
we've got
it won't-
20, and do you know that we need 40, or is that just a guess? You said 20.
20 is what the original budget number was when we talked about it 2 years ago when I was still the township's rep on the advisory board.
Okay, but you said 20 to 40, so are you thinking it's gonna be more than 20?
I would guess that their budget has probably increased in the last 2 years because of the final design.
Okay,
And I'm also guessing you're gonna add some pretty significant inflation costs.
so let's
So-
say 30 then we might need.
Right.
And if we have 20, what if we take, what if we add $500,000 next year and 5 the next, so we don't have to, just spread out the
This is gonna be
difference?
an annual increase. It's gonna
Oh,
be
not
an
just a
additional,
one-time?
correct.
It's a
Oh,
20-year
pardon me.
We're talking a
payback.
multi-million dollar
Pardon me.
project and our share of it is based on our percentage of
Okay,
ownership.
sorry, misunderstood
So
that
we're gonna
one.
have to raise rates.
Okay. so
Otherwise, I would
cross
say
that.
let's put it in the bank right now. Right, I agree with you from that perspective, but this is
Okay.
gonna be an annual.
Okay, so we have to
Cost.
figure that out, okay. All right,
And
that's the only
there's a
question I have.
specific line in the budget, it's just gonna go up by another 20 or whatever that number ends up being
Sure.
when they calculate our final percentage of that debt payment.
Okay,
So I have a question.
sure.
On page 4, it says marijuana business license renewal. So annually, our marijuana businesses will be paying us $2,500, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The planning commission thought there was not an annual fee, so I will share with them.
Yeah, that was established when the ordinance was
Yeah.
created.
Yeah, well, they might not have been there. Or who
Well,
knows?
they were,
I wasn't.
okay.
Some maybe, we're not.
Well, the fee schedule's gonna stay the same then, except for.
Garbage will
the
go to
garbage.
1725.
Everything else is gonna stay the same. Did you have a question or anything?
Following up on Linda, that $2,500,
Yeah.
we also get some dollars from the state on this marijuana stuff too,
Yeah.
do we not?
Well, dependent on how many or establishments are in the state, and it's a formula. And you're not gonna get as much as they got last year, because there's more businesses.
We do get something,
Yeah, maybe we'll have to see what they
yeah.
send our way.
We will, based on the number of establishments in business for the year, based on the revenue the state generates, and we're hearing that that number, because the market is getting saturated, the revenues the state is getting are actually decreasing, because
Are they?
the supply and demand is resulting in lower pricing and lower revenues for the same amount of sales.
The one on 41 is open.
Yep,
Did everyone know that?
yep.
Okay.
So, the debt payments, that's kind of the next page. We talked about the balloon and moving some money around. We could have that discussion probably the first of the year and see if we wanted to make some of that, pay some of those off sooner or whatever. And we were gonna add somehow either a separate page for Lois's purposes to just show our internal loan that we have, or is it 2 loans? I keep saying that, at least one. Either add it to this in another column or on another sheet, so we know what we owe what fund. Okay, so next is general. John, has anything changed in yours since, other than we know the health insurance and the contracts
pending.
will change?
That's it as of right now.
Okay. Anybody have any questions so far? I don't mean
On
to
the general fund?
speed it. Yeah.
The only thing from the board's point of view is, I did have Lois print out a 2.5% increase for the board and the committees. And the net effect of that was like $1,056 for the whole year, next year. So, on November 2nd meeting, I do have a action item on the agenda that will address that. So the board will either have to approve it or not approve it at that.
We have to do it by individual.
Well, that, you have to approve the rate increase for everyone, and then we'll do it, then we'll do the
Yeah.
individual salaries.
I think, yeah, the board.
After that.
Something has to be separate. I remember we had. to
Each,
do
each
that.
positions have to be separate.
Yes, I do
Trustees,
know that.
And then the
and-
officers, so 4 of them.
But you can't put the horse before the cart.
Right.
You have to do the board increase is first.
Right.
Approve that, and then the individual salaries for each position will be addressed.
Okay.
And then the committees, planning, ZBA, and board of review will just be, we don't have to do a resolution for them. That'll just be increased.
That's just a board.
Yes, that'll be taken care of, and it's only like $1 for each meeting, so. But
Okay.
that'll be November 2nd meeting. And from the clerk's department, Marquette Area Public Schools is possibly looking at a May election for millage renewal. But that would be completely reimbursable, so we would pay up front and then we'd get reimbursed, so that wouldn't be anything on us. We would get reimbursed fully for that election, right, Lois?
Mhm.
So,
And then in your budget, that was the only thing from the book that changed.
would be, yeah, the only thing that in my budget, there was an error that the deputy clerk should be getting a $500 a year salary instead of $250. And that'll be the same as the deputy
So I don't know if you
treasurer.
guys have your pages.
Yeah.
I added that in.
So the deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer are the same as far as salary and what hourly rate they get, if they have to come in and do anything.
Now, in November now, the deputies will get their annual one, but the deputy treasurer will be prorated.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah. As of November 20th, I told Lois they get paid that payday after November 20th, because then that'll be that on that cycle.
Okay. Fire department, anything special? Did you say, John, that we had fire, I don't have it with me, CIP request too? Right,
We
is
do.
that, okay. I haven't looked at mine in a while. So whenever we schedule that meeting, it'd be a good idea to have somebody from the fire department there.
And under the fire department CIP request is the storage building, that it's not really just the fire departments, but they submitted it. And so we might want to change that submission to a township submission, or, because the planning commission was very concerned that the fire department needed another building after they just had one built. And I tried to explain that it wasn't just the fire department, but it needs to be renamed.
In addition, the fire hall was built prior to an ambulance service.
I
Yes.
explained all that,
Yeah.
but you know, I'm just saying that they were very concerned that they needed that. So if it was named differently, I think it would have been nothing.
Better received.
Better received.
What would they say if we could only spend ARPA funds on it if it was for public safety?
I don't know what they would say or how it would work. I just know that they were concerned about how it was labeled. Do you know?
I'm just being devil's advocate.
I know, and you know, they were concerned about a couple things. That was
Well, and that's good. That's,
Yeah, you want them to
you
be-
want more eyes. That's
Yeah, you
totally
want that.
fine.
yeah.
You know, it'd be nice if we had some public in here giving us some ideas on things, but.
Hopefully they're coming to the strategic planning meeting. They're to contact Jason if they plan to attend.
But John is right. We did build the fire department not with an ambulance service in mind.
Well, storage is a problem. That'll be part of the strategic planning discussion. We all have storage issues, so.
So it's a township store.
Yeah. Okay, liquor law is pretty straightforward.
That's money in, money out.
Yeah. Township improvements is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, in and out. Big dollars in, big dollars out.
Yeah, so the only difference there is my recommendation is $50,000 for road maintenance next year, of which we don't have a slated project yet. I think that's really what the roads committee has got to come up with, and it's not that they haven't wanted to, they just haven't had enough information to make a recommendation.
Okay. Library fund is also an in and out. Huge chunk of change. Don't
As
get
is
John going.
stormwater.
As a stormwater.
Yep,
The only difference with stormwater is we do get a $500 admin fee for every stormwater plan review that is not reimbursable. The escrow funds are reimbursable if we don't spend them all. And that's really for our consultant to review the actual stormwater calculations and then the attorney to review any legal documents.
okay, wastewater, we beat that up pretty good. Do we know, this is probably very precipitous, Lois, do we have an idea how much any of these funds might, how much money might go into any of these, especially utilities, into the fund balance? Is there, like, on an average, 20,000 gets put in for water, 25 for, is there a kind of a number?
Well, I mean, it changes every month.
Yeah. No, I mean at the end of the year.
We could probably give you a 10-year report on that. If you compared the original approved budget to the final, it will give you the difference of the net effect. I think we could do that pretty quickly, Lois,
Okay.
for the last 10 years.
Okay.
What are you looking for?
Ben just wants to see what overages
How
we
much
have.
money
in
is
there.
Oh,
in
okay,
there.
the overages,
Yeah,
okay.
how much is transferred over? Because it ties back to that discussion of why do we have all this money sitting there? If it's budgeted or if it's tied to the CIP, you know, that might help with the whole CIP discussion. Is if this stuff is, if the money is saved for certain projects and we haven't done them yet, it goes to the fund balance. So
It goes to almost like a restricted fund to a certain extent.
and that's
It's
where
earmarked.
I had suggested
Earmarked
we
fund.
call it an earmarked account so we could identify how much is for the generator, how much is for, you know, whatever those items are. So that might help, kind of give us an idea.
Yeah, so we're not asking for the same dollars every year when there are already dollars there.
We don't know. Well,
Yeah.
we're kind of behind because we had 600,000 or 700,000 saved that we were trying to identify what that consisted of or was
Right,
for.
but we don't know.
But we spent it down on Grove Street.
No, Vandenboom and Grow.
Yeah. So,
Water
Let's
project.
also not forget that we should be properly funding our asset management plan. That's where a big chunk of that money should be going so that we can afford to pay for replacement of our systems as they age. And that's the biggest thing that most people in the public don't understand, how expensive it is to replace this stuff when it's time to replace.
some of them on the West End do know that now because they've struggled with drilling wells and
Well,
joining each other and
It's no different
Spending
than,
tens of millions of dollars on 80-year-old infrastructure.
it's really no different than a home though. You
yeah,
need
well,
to-
it's just a lot more.
Well, it's just
You got a
that,
plan.
it's a, yeah, you have to have a plan, you have to have a replacement plan. When your furnace goes out, you better have a plan.
And we have a good plan for the wastewater utility. We don't have it yet for the water utility.
And that's what they're gonna work on. Maybe.
You know, we're still hoping to get grant money for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Have we got the money from the federal government for stimulus have we got that yet?
The
We
ARPA
received
money?
our first payment.
We got the first payment, okay.
So by the time you approve this final budget, the revenues for this year will reflect that first payment, right, Lois? Under grant money, the 200 and something thousand that we received. And then a year from now, we'll get that second payment. Less a week or so. We haven't had the money that long
And
yet.
we have to identify what to spend it on
That'll be
based on
part of the
criteria.
strategic planning
Correct.
discussion too.
Yeah.
Strategic
ARPA
planning.
funds.
Yeah. Is there a handout you can send us what it's based, what it has to be spent on, or was the general handout the same? Is it as general as that?
I can tell you, I've been sitting in on as much training as I can get, and it's about as clear as mud.
Oh, okay, it's the federal government.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it.
And I got a feeling it's gonna change. The big communities are gonna force the changes in that too, so.
They're getting millions, we're getting 400,000.
But it's
Yeah.
based on population, right?
It is.
Yeah, well, we have 444,000 people.
But
We
what I'm
shouldn't get
saying
the
is,
same.
the change is gonna be forced by the bigger communities.
What you're
If they don't
allowed
wanna
to
do
use.
this, why can't we do this? And they're going to their representatives,
Yeah,
because they got a big
They have
block
more
of people
people.
behind.
Yeah,
And
that's what works.
we're kind of been dragged on.
Except they've already given you the money and they've already given you the requirements, and you can't change that in the middle of the stream. You can say from this day forward it changes, but you can't go back. So
Well,
maybe
I
we need to
wouldn't- I
spend
wouldn't
it.
no,
count
I
on
don't know,
that.
because we've got 2 years to spend the money, and it will be audited, so they could, that's why he's saying it's
Oh,
not
I
clear.
I guess so.
They haven't
It's like a
decided
grant
yet
with the
exactly
federal
what we can use
government.
it for.
Well, we'll see.
Okay,
Won't
water budget?
The big communities make it to a point.
Anything on the water budget? I had asked Lenny about the hydrants because I knew he wanted to get some hydrants, but the amount changed to a negative 4,000, or reduced, but they're gonna do that, if you remember, as part of the capital purchase, rather than just a maintenance item.
One thing about the water and sewer and all that, you know, I like the thinking that we're taking care of and discussing it within the department, because if you let it go, it's gonna cost a heck of a lot of money, and our neighbors to the west found that out several years ago. A couple years back, they found out how much it's gonna cost them by not taking care of it. And I'm, you know, kinda happy that our departments are taking care of what we should be taking care of.
Okay, solid waste, we just beat that up pretty good. We've got a good plan. I think you guys did a good job coming up with some recommendations. And we agreed with you on that.
So is the solid waste budget where the loan came out of? That the township borrowed the money out
Yes,
of?
yes.
So there really is more money in the solid waste when the loan's repaid?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
If you look at
Okay.
the, really the fund balances on a monthly basis, you'll see how much is owed from, the general fund over to, wastewater, or solid waste, I should say, and that. I can't remember offhand what it is, but it's there and that.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to show me next time we have a meeting. You'll have to show me where that is.
Okay, garbage customers, rate history. Metro Authority, it's kind of just there.
Always interested in that, because the money just sitting there comes into us, and just sitting there, and we can use it for certain things and that, for right-of-ways.
Right-of-ways,
And
yeah.
that, but,
Like clearing the brush and things from right-of-ways.
Oh, there you go, Pete.
Wow.
Get them to clear
What?
some of the right of ways.
Utility
I'll get my
wise.
trailer right away.
Yeah, really, if you have money there.
So that's it. Anything pressing, any problems, questions? John?
I just want to say something to our superintendent of public works. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
His and John's head are gonna really get big, because I'm constantly complimenting them. And I just want you to know, and I have told both of you this, that things are smoother with this budget. They're easier to understand. The processes that you guys are putting in place make sense. The board in general agrees with how you're handling your employees, how you're working with your staff. It's not just me saying that, and stop me if I'm wrong, but I think we're very happy with the way the townships are being handled.
You don't have to get too carried away.
Pete's running out of airspace over here.
I can say last night the planning commission was very supportive of Lenny and his presentations to us on the CIP. So they wanted Jason to let you know that.
Okay.
And so Jason may not have had that opportunity yet, but
Thank you.
yeah, one of our commissioners was very impressed.
Starting to have a hard time keeping my head straight now.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
really.
It's okay. Next week they'll have something else to say.
Yeah.
Come back straight up.
Yeah.
What's it?
this is for,
Okay, anything else?
Mary Davis, whose daughter passed away.
We can get finished early
I'm
then.
just sending a thank you card.
All right.
Want to wait, you can get your packets for Tuesday, because I'll have them ready here shortly. If anyone wants to stay.
Well, we can stop this, hey?
Well, as long as you, yeah, I'm gonna get my,
Here's 320.
Is it a speedy printer?
yeah. I was gonna have Lynn look at the agenda, make sure it's right, and then we can.
Okay. So I'm gonna adjourn us at 3:26.